Welcome to today's deep dive. So right now, somewhere out there, a local cash-intensive business is depositing like $10,000.
A pretty standard transaction, right?
Exactly. Just a routine Tuesday in the financial system. But at the exact same moment, a mid-sized shipping company is routing funds through three completely disparate shell entities across jurisdictions that are, known for strict corporate secrecy.
Which is very much not a routine Tuesday.
No, that one is a highly sophisticated layering phase of a global syndicate. But here's the crazy part. The difference between those two transactions is almost entirely invisible to the untrained eye.
It really is. And, spotting that difference is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today.
Right, because today is Monday, March 16th, 2026.
The timing here is very deliberate.
Yeah, because in exactly 1 week, on March 23rd, 2026, the next intake actually begins for the ICA Advanced Certificate in Anti-Money Laundering.
And, if that March 23rd deadline slips by you, the ICA does run other intakes.
Yeah, there's January, June 29th, July, and September.
Right. But this impending start date gives us the perfect excuse to just crack open the source material for this course and really get into it.
Exactly. We have everything here. The full syllabus, the course structure, the teaching methodology, even the pricing details.
Which is incredibly helpful.
So our mission today is to figure out exactly what it takes to become a certified financial crime fighter. We really want to understand how they train human intuition to spot these invisible, borderless crimes.
Because whether you're looking to pivot your career or maybe step into a compliance role, or honestly, even if you just want to understand how the industry works, this material is fascinating.
It really is. It's one thing to, read about illicit finance in the headlines, but it's an entirely different discipline to engineer a workforce capable of actually intercepting it.
That distinction right there between reading about the crime and actively intercepting it, that is the whole philosophical foundation of this program.
Okay, let's unpack this, because when you look at the syllabus, the scope is just massive.
Yeah, covers money laundering, terrorist financing, and some really complex sanctions risks.
Right, and immediately you realize the scale of the problem. You are dealing with adversaries who are exceptionally well-funded, highly adaptive, and completely unconstrained by geography.
Which brings up a massive friction point that the curriculum highlights. It heavily emphasizes this concept of ongoing customer due diligence, or CDD.
Right, the ongoing part. Because initial CDD is relatively straightforward. You check the documents, you verify the corporate structure, and you establish a baseline risk profile. I actually like to think of initial CDD like dating.
Okay, dating. How so?
Well, it's like doing a background check before the first date. You're just making sure they are who they say they are.
Right, checking their ID at the door.
Exactly. But the syllabus specifically forces students to focus on the ongoing aspect. And ongoing CDD is like continually checking your partner's credit score and associations like 5 years into the marriage.
That is a hilarious way to put it, but it's totally accurate.
Yeah, because trust in financial systems is never permanent, right? The real nightmare for a practitioner isn't day one. It's year 3.
Yeah, when the ultimate beneficial owner suddenly shifts into a blind trust.
Right. Or when transaction volume spikes in a totally new currency. Or a dormant subsidiary just suddenly starts wiring funds to a high-risk jurisdiction.
What's fascinating here is that the friction comes from the fact that a perfectly legitimate corporate entity in, say, 2022 can be quietly co-opted into a laundering vehicle by 2026.
Exactly. And that shifting threat profile is why the course pivots so hard away from a rules-based approach.
Yeah, they heavily favor what they call an AML CFT risk-based approach.
Because a rules-based system is basically relying on a bouncer at the door of a club just checking IDs.
Right. And the criminal syndicates, they know the checklist, they know exactly what documents the bouncer needs to see, and they just manufacture them perfectly.
So the risk-based approach is less about checking the ID and more like having an undercover detective watching the crowd inside the club.
That's a great analogy. You're shifting from administrative compliance to active threat analysis. You have to analyze vulnerabilities in specific services and products constantly.
But that undercover detective is operating with a severe handicap.
Oh, absolutely. The syllabus really highlights this deliberate tension between international standard setters and national legal frameworks.
It's a structural tightrope.
Precisely. Financial crime is inherently borderless. A sanctions evasion network might originate in Asia, route through shell companies in the Caribbean, and then attempt to purchase real estate in Europe.
They completely exploit the seams between national borders.
But the MLRO, the Money Laundering Reporting Officer, They don't have that luxury.
Hmm.
They have to operate within the strict, rigid confines of their specific national borders.
So you are basically fighting a borderless crime using border-bound tools.
Right, which means a one-size-fits-all checklist simply won't work. It requires an incredible amount of analytical agility.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because looking at the logistics of this course, I have a major point of skepticism.
Right, what is it?
So we're talking about an intermediate level 4 qualification.
Yes.
It grants 100 ICA CPD hours. It bestows the official designation of Advanced Certificate in AML, and it takes 6 months part-time to complete.
Sounds rigorous so far.
Right, but the syllabus claims this structure only requires 2 to 4 hours of self-study per week.
Outside of assessment periods, yeah.
Wait, 2 to 4 hours a week? That sounds incredibly light. I mean, how do you possibly build the analytical agility to track a multinational evasion network on 4 hours a week?
It does seem crazy when you just look at the hours.
Right, like if you handed someone a stack of international banking regulations, they couldn't even finish the table of contents in that time.
This raises an important question about how they actually teach it. Because if the method relied on rote memorization, it would be physically impossible. You'd just be drowning the student in regulatory text.
So how do they do it?
The course architecture relies on a completely different delivery mechanism. They use a blend of guided online study and what they call expert-led live virtual classrooms.
Okay.
And the critical phrase hidden in the syllabus here is immersive scenarios.
Oh, I see. So it's basically like a flight simulator for compliance officers.
Exactly.
Instead of just reading the manual on how to fly the plane, you put them in the simulator, you throw in some massive turbulence, and maybe let them crash a virtual bank a few times.
So they don't do it with real money. The flight simulator analogy is spot on because it focuses on muscle memory, and you're interacting with serious industry practitioners.
Right, the tutors. The source material name is David Povey, the course director for AML and sanctions.
And Wayne Haynes, a global lead in financial crime compliance. Plus Ben Jones, the associate course director.
So these guys aren't just lecturing on the abstract theory of a sanction.
No, they are bringing active, complex scenarios into the virtual classroom.
Let's visualize what one of those immersive scenarios might actually look like based on the syllabus.
Okay, picture this. You log into the virtual classroom for your 2 hours that week. Wayne Haynes doesn't just put up a PowerPoint defining trade-based money laundering.
Right, that would be boring.
Instead, he presents the cohort with a live dashboard of a fictitious mid-market bank.
Oh, wow.
And you're handed a letter of credit for a shipment of dual-use industrial equipment. The manufacturer is in a low-risk European country, but the shipping route has suddenly diverted to a port notorious for weak customs enforcement.
And let me guess, the newly listed beneficiary is a recently incorporated entity with 0 digital footprint.
Exactly. And the pressure in that virtual room isn't about quoting the exact subsection of some European directive. The tutors are watching how the students actually dissect the anomaly.
Like, are they checking the vessel's registration? Are they cross-referencing the beneficial owners against recent sanctions lists?
Yes. The syllabus specifically states the goal is to develop behaviors and vital critical thinking and interpersonal skills.
Ah, so by forcing you to untangle that web in real time with your peers, your brain builds intuitive threat recognition.
Precisely. You learn to feel the structural weakness in a transaction before you even open the regulatory framework to confirm it.
Which totally explains the assessment structure, too. Because the 6-month course ends with 2 specific evaluations.
Right. One is a research-based assignment.
Which makes perfect sense for testing your ability to execute a deep, methodical investigation over time. But the other one is a timed, online, scenario-based assessment.
And that timed element is the final stress test of that intellectual muscle memory we were talking about.
Because in the real world of high-frequency finance, you don't have 3 weeks to decide if a transaction should be frozen.
Exactly. You have hours, or sometimes literally minutes. That timed assessment proves whether the risk-based approach has actually been internalized.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the person actually taking the course? We know how they deliver the impact within a tight time frame, but let's look at the actual investment required.
The logistics of stepping into that simulator.
Yeah, because the pricing structure reveals some fascinating insights about who is actually in that virtual classroom with you.
The target demographic is quite broad. It's designed for new MLROs and deputies, financial crime and risk officers, compliance personnel, and even internal auditors taking on financial crime portfolios.
Or just anyone aspiring to be an AML professional. And they're all chasing a credential that carries some pretty heavy institutional gravity.
Yes. It's awarded in association with Alliance Manchester Business School at the University of Manchester.
That academic backing is a huge part of the value proposition, but of course it comes with a specific price tag.
Let's break that down.
Sure, summarizing the tiers, you're looking at roughly 2,150 British pounds.
Or 2,365 euros.
And for the US, it's $2,795, plus any applicable local taxes at checkout.
Right. And for self-funding professionals, they do offer an option to spread that out over interest-free installments.
Well, which is pretty much a necessary pressure relief valve if you're making a mid-career pivot.
Yeah.
But there is a secondary cost built into the architecture.
Ah, yes. The mandatory 12-month ICA membership fee.
Right. That adds another 185 pounds, 204 euros, or 241 US dollars.
And there's a logistical quirk with that membership fee worth flagging for anyone actually enrolling.
Oh, what is it?
If you use the interest-free installment plan for the tuition, the system requires you to purchase that mandatory membership in a completely separate upfront transaction before you can officially enroll in the cohort.
Oh, wow. That's a slightly clunky checkout mechanism.
Yeah, man.
But honestly, the existence of that mandatory fee itself is what caught my attention, especially when you pair it with another line item in the pricing.
Which one?
The source material highlights an automatic 15% discount applied at checkout for students residing in low GDP countries.
They also offer group booking discounts, but that 15% GDP adjustment is really brilliant.
It is, because it engineers geographic friction.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, how do you see that tying into their educational strategy?
Well, think about it. If you charge a flat, premium Western European rate across the board, your virtual classroom is entirely populated by compliance officers from London, Frankfurt, and New York.
Who all share the exact same baseline assumptions?
Exactly. But by subsidizing entry for professionals in developing economies, the ICA is deliberately cultivating a globally diverse cohort.
Which mirrors the crime itself.
Yes, one of the past student testimonials specifically called out the value of this shared global experience with people from all over the world.
So when you are analyzing one of Wayne Haynes's hypothetical trade-based laundering scenarios, you aren't just hearing a textbook answer.
No. You're actively debating the vulnerability with a practitioner operating in a jurisdiction that might actually be the target of that exact exploitation.
That engineer diversity fundamentally changes the nature of that mandatory ICA membership fee as well.
How so?
Well, it's very easy to look at a mandatory annual fee tacked onto a course and just dismiss it as an administrative revenue driver,
You would
right?
totally, just another fee.
But when you look at what it actually plugs the student into, it reveals a structural philosophy about the industry itself.
It forces you into the network.
Exactly. It drops you into an active, interconnected community of over 30,000 global members.
And you get access to the personalized ICA Learning Hub.
Right, and digital badges to verify your credentials. But the true ongoing value lies in the weekly webinars and the continuous updates.
Because in financial crime, yesterday's syllabus is tomorrow's loophole.
Perfectly said. The syndicates are essentially conducting their own continuous R&D.
Right. If the ICA publishes a paper on how to catch a specific layering technique, the syndicates read the exact same paper and just alter their technique.
The moment a new typologies report is published, the half-life of your current knowledge begins to decay.
Wow. That's intense.
So by enforcing the 12-month membership during the 6-month study period, the ICA is conditioning the student's behavior.
While you're struggling through the immersive scenarios and the research assignments, you are simultaneously getting into the habit of consuming weekly, real-time intelligence briefings.
The course teaches you how to think, and the membership feeds you the raw data you need to apply that thinking to the threat landscape of tomorrow.
It is a comprehensive ecosystem. It's designed to strip away the comfort of the checklist and force practitioners into the uncomfortable gray area of risk assessment.
Absolutely.
The advanced certificate is clearly way more than just a resume builder for a newly minted MLRO. It's a 6-month, scenario-driven crucible.
It really is a crucible. But, looking at the trajectory of these crimes and the syllabus's focus on identifying vulnerabilities in specific products, it leaves us staring down a rather profound operational cliff.
Ah, the velocity problem.
Precisely. We spent this entire deep dive discussing how to train a human brain to conduct ongoing customer due diligence, how to recognize suspicions, how to analyze complex corporate structures.
Right, but financial products are becoming increasingly instantaneous and entirely digitized.
Yes, we are moving toward environments where millions of microtransactions can clear across international borders in fractions of a second.
So at what point does human oversight, no matter how rigorously trained by David Povey or Wayne Haynes, at what point does it become physically impossible?
That is the existential question for the next generation of compliance. Even with the sharpest critical thinking skills and the most intuitive threat recognition from those virtual simulators, a human being simply cannot review a ledger moving at the speed of modern algorithmic trading.
Which means the role of the MLRO has to evolve again? If the human can't watch the transactions, the human has to watch the machine that watches the transactions.
The future of the AML professional will inevitably shift. The focus is going to move away from direct, manual investigation of individual behaviors.
And pivot toward auditing the AI algorithms.
Exactly. Complex auditing of the artificial intelligence deployed to monitor the network. The compliance officer of 2030 won't be looking for the needle in the haystack.
They will be interrogating the AI to ensure it hasn't developed a blind spot to a new type of synthetic needle.
You're no longer just the detective. You're the one policing the digital detective to ensure it hasn't been outsmarted by the syndicate's algorithm.
That is a staggering paradigm shift for the industry. And honestly, it underscores exactly why the foundational agility taught in courses like this is so critical. You have to deeply understand the core mechanics of the crime before you can ever hope to train a machine to catch it for you.
You absolutely do.
Well, if you are looking to be part of that next generation of financial crime fighters, that March 23rd, 2026 intake for the ICA Advanced Certificate is rushing up fast.
It's right around the corner.
The global economy isn't slowing down, the syndicates are certainly not taking a break, and the need for professionals who can navigate that borderless friction is higher than it has ever been. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, and we will catch you on the next one.